You know Patty, you know Tanya, you know Sissany, you know Tubbs. You know Mark. Mark?
Kinda.
Well, you hear that everyone, if you listen every once, I mean, sometimes.
Yeah.
If you don't, you don't. If you do, you do. And then, Erica, and if you don't, you don't. And if you do, you do. But she is, what's your technical role, name, title, job title?
Producer.
Oh, well,
Just,
we got so
pretty
specific.
Yeah.
But you may speak to Erica when you call in. She's been a part of the show for a long time, and she loves to come on the air when there's a conundrum.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So what is the query? What's going on?
Well, this time it's way less fun than a dating conundrum, but this time I have COVID and I'm trying to figure out when I'm free to leave my house because I'm on day 9 now, but I still, as of 2 days ago, was testing positive on antigen tests. And so I don't know when I'm actually not contagious.
So your 5 kept going because you didn't get a negative test?
Yeah, I tested on the 6th day and I was still positive and I was like, oh, I'm sure.
So you have to go 5 more?
So then I was supposed to go 5 more, right? But then I'm like, if I'm still testing positive on these antigen tests at day 10, am I good to go?
No.
Interesting. I would think no. I would think you can't leave until it's negative.
But then if you read the CDC stuff, it's like 10 days. So I'm so confused. I literally am like dying
10 days with a negative test. You're supposed to 10 days, but I think you're supposed to have an. I got to.
But I know that. But I know that some people could test positive for months, like that, and especially on a PCR.
Yeah.
Yes. PCR, they're like, don't even take it because you're just probably going to come back positive. But the antigen is where it's really confusing. And I'm like, can someone help me? Because I really want to leave.
Well, you sound congested.
Oh, yeah. I
How do
don't
you
sound
feel?
great. I feel a lot better. I felt awful for 3 days.
So the question is, if it continues to roll on, what are you supposed to do, right? If you continue to get a positive. So I'm not going to answer this because I have no credibility. But if anybody in the medical world is listening and you can prove your credibility, please call. We'd like to actually find a solution. And we do have, believe it or not, doctors listen.
It's so confusing. It's so confusing because everyone's journey is different. So I tested negative on an antigen, like the at-home test, on day 5. And then by day 9, I was negative PCR. And so it's just, and then you hear some people, like in Erica's case, where it's just still positive. And it's like, why?
What about people go for, like you said, weeks and weeks at a time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a break and come back. There are calls coming in, Erica. If you can hang for just, well, of course you can.
Yeah,
you can
I work
you
here.
You can hang like she's going anywhere.
And you're in isolation. So you
I can't go anywhere.
So Erica on our staff has tested positive for COVID, and then she isolated, and then day 6 tested positive again. And the question is, if you keep testing positive, do you have to keep resetting your 5 days of isolation? Dr. Vick, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ryan?
Dr. Vick, I'm doing well. Can you please authenticate that you are a real doctor?
Prove. That may be difficult. I am a board-certified family doctor. I am a fellowship-trained sports medicine physician and an owner of an urgent care.
Okay.
So I think I'm pretty qualified.
We'll probably be able to tell by your answers. But thanks for coming on with us, Dr. Vick. We appreciate it. We do have a real serious question here, and there seems to be confusion. If one tests positive for the new variant, Omicron, of COVID, and they isolate 5 days, and on day 6, they test positive, does the 5-day isolation roll over and start again?
No. So ultimately what it boils down to, Ryan, is you have to determine if individuals are vaccinated or not, first and foremost, because the guidelines would be different for each of those individuals. So if an individual is vaccinated and they test positive, it would really depend on whether or not they were either exposed or if they actually have symptoms. If they have symptoms and they test positive, the guidelines right now indicate that you should quarantine for 5 days, and then you can return back, if you're vaccinated, fully vaccinated, you can return back to work and wear a mask for another 5 more days. If you are unvaccinated and you come in contact with somebody, the guidelines have actually changed for that too. And they just require that if you don't have any symptoms, you just wear a mask for 10 days.
Okay. So
Does that help?
it does, because I think our naivety was saying, oh, you test positive, you got to roll 5 more days, but not the case if you're vaccinated.
No, so what the issue with that is, Ryan, is that individuals can actually have a positive test regardless of exposure or symptoms after they test positive for up to the guidelines actually indicate that you can have it for up to 12 weeks.
Oh.
So you may have been exposed, had symptoms, tested positive, and then passed your infection, but ultimately continue to test positive for up to 3 months or 12 weeks.
And what are we seeing now in terms of best information on when one thinks they're exposed and when one's test reads positive? How many days in between?
Typically, the guidelines would say that you are most infective 1 to 2 days prior to exposure or prior to contracting. So once you've been exposed, and you actually have the infection, you're most transmissible 1 to 2 days prior to that and 2 to 3 days after that. And that's really why the guidelines would support a 5-day quarantine versus a continued 10-day quarantine.
Okay, we got one more question here before we let you run, Dr. Vick. Sissany, go ahead.
Dr. Vick, so my son got COVID from school, and I recently had COVID weeks ago. So can I isolate and quarantine with him? Is that can I get it again that quickly, or am I safe, so to speak?
In theory, you should be safe. And the reason I say that is because once you clear the infection, your body has a ramped up immunity, and that ramped up immunity should be protective from any future infections until that immunity wanes, which we know through research does. The only way that you could possibly get infected again would be with a different variant. For instance, if you contracted Delta variant initially, past that, and then ultimately son gets Omicron in theory could reinfect you and you can come down with symptoms again. But the likelihood of that occurring is very low, as research has shown that even the Delta immunity continues to protect you against further infections.
Interesting. Well, thank you.
Dr. Vick, thank you very much for your time. Yeah, he proved it. He's a real Dr. Vick.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Have a great day, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye. So, Erica, what does that mean for you?
Party time.
I think it means I'm free.
You're supposed to wear a mask, but you're good.
Yeah, but after day 10, have a nice life.
No, test again. You test again.
I know, but he said I'm going to keep testing positive.
I heard it. Back off your Zoom lens. I heard it right there.
Okay, but I could still test positive, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm contagious anymore.
Right. So you're good to go with your mask now.
So I could go party now.
No, I wouldn't take it to the extreme. I still hear sickness. What I would do is I would. Store. Yeah, I mean, go to the grocery store if you need to, but put your mask on. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Well, good news for you. You're welcome.
Great.
Thanks for coming on. I hope you continue to feel okay, though. Seriously.
Thanks, guys. I'm good. Thanks.
Bye, Erica.